On a quiet and cold night, under a full moon that lit up the sky, Youssef sat at his small desk in his dark apartment. Youssef, a man in his 30s, was a lover of ancient books and mysterious legends, spending most of his time immersed in tales about unknown realms and supernatural entities. One day, while wandering through a market of old books, a dusty, mysterious book caught his eye, sitting neglected in a corner of the shop. The book was large, with a pitch-black cover and red engravings that resembled blood. On the cover, one word was carved: Lucifer. Youssef asked the shopkeeper about the book, but the man hesitated for a moment before saying, "This book is not for sale. It carries curses that should not be tampered with." Youssef's curiosity grew even more. He insisted on buying the book and offered a large sum of money until the shopkeeper reluctantly agreed. As Youssef left the shop, the man whispered, "Be careful. Some secrets should remain hidden." Youssef returned to his apartment and locked the door tightly. Sitting in his room filled with books, he lit a candle on his desk and opened the book. The first pages were filled with incomprehensible symbols and strange drawings of creatures with burned wings and glowing eyes. In the middle of the book, he found a text written in an ancient language, but oddly, he could read it as if the words spoke directly to him. He read aloud, "Lucifer, the greatest and most beautiful of angels, rebelled against his creator. He fell from light into darkness to become the ruler of hell. But his spirit has not rested and now seeks to return. Whoever reads these words opens the door between the worlds and bears the consequences." Suddenly, the room began to shake and the candle blew out. Youssef felt an intense cold sweep through the space, and strange whispers began to fill the room. The words on the book's pages began to move, pulsating as if alive. He tried to close the book, but he couldn't. The pages flipped on their own until they stopped at a blank page. On the white page, blood-red writing appeared. "You have opened the door. Prepare to meet him." Youssef felt a terror unlike anything he'd ever known. He tried to step away from the book, but dark shadows started appearing in the corners of the room. The whispers grew louder, transforming into horrifying cries of tortured souls. One voice said, "You've brought him to us. He is coming." The walls began to crack, and the mirrors in the rooms shattered one by one. Suddenly, the lights went out completely, leaving only the faint glow of the moon. Youssef could hear heavy footsteps approaching his room. He tried to run, but the door was locked tightly, as though a supernatural force was holding it shut. From the darkness emerged a towering figure, with charred wings and eyes that burned like embers. It was Lucifer. He smiled a sinister smile and spoke in a deep, menacing voice. "You thought you were smarter than everyone? You thought you could toy with me? Now you will pay the price." Youssef tried to speak, but his voice had vanished. He felt the air grow heavy, as if something was pressing on his chest. Lucifer stepped closer, and the room began to fill with choking black smoke. "Those who play with fire will burn," Lucifer said, extending his hand toward Youssef. At that moment, Youssef collapsed to the ground and began seeing horrifying visions. He saw himself trapped in a dark realm filled with tormented souls, screaming for salvation. Each face bore an expression of blame, as though holding him responsible for their suffering. Suddenly, Youssef found himself back in his room, but he was no longer the same. The lone surviving mirror revealed his reflection, but it wasn't the Youssef he knew. His eyes had turned completely black, and a strange symbol was engraved on his forehead. He heard Lucifer's voice again. "You are now a part of me. The door has been opened, and there is no turning back." Lucifer disappeared, but the entity that entered Youssef's life remained with him. From that day on, Youssef began hearing voices at night and having endless nightmares. Strangely, the book vanished from his apartment and reappeared somewhere else, waiting for its next victim.